Hi everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the LGFA Research Pod. This week's presentation is a sociological topic. So the title of it is The Social Construction of a Club Sport Organisation. So just a bit about myself. I am from Tipperary. I spent a number of years working as a GPO in Dublin. I moved back to Tipperary then in August 2019 and set up with a friend of mine my own company, Active Sports Coaching. We focus on fundamental movement skills and after school clubs working through a multi-sport and a games-based approach. I'm a camogie tutor, coach developer. I'm a tutor for the GAA as well. I do part-time lecturing in Mary I with the PE department and also do a bit of hurling work for daily sports sites. I did a master's in sports coaching through the University of Birmingham, which brings me on to our topic. This was my MSc dissertation. So the research objectives were the socialization process of the GAA, what is it, and the LGFA, looking at volunteer experiences, looking at the impact of the club on its members, and looking at the role of a rural-based club on the wider community. So the club itself that I studied was a rural club in a very urban environment. That's how the chairperson described it. It was based in Dublin, outside in a very rural area, but very close to a very urban environment. It had about 500 members, boys and girls teams. There was 5 girls teams from under 8s up to the senior ladies, and at a club with fairly modest facilities as well. There was 2 playing pitches. There was a men's pitch, a ladies' pitch, both full size, and then a juvenile pitch, which was Astro and a new facility at the time. The clubhouse itself was very modest, just changing rooms, a kitchen, and a small gym. There was no function room or bar. They used just the local hotel slash pub. So this is a quote from Griffith and Mark Griffiths and Kathy Armour, and they were looking at community-based sports. And what is it? Well, it's an extensive social enterprise that is driven almost exclusively by volunteers, and I think that's quite a good definition of an LGFA or a GAA club. So, like any academic study, it needs to be underpinned or grounded in theory. So I looked at Bronfenbrenner's socio-ecological model, and it contained 4 cycles. So it had the microcycle first and foremost. So this would have been, the microcycle is the close relations that impact the volunteer. So they would be family members or neighbours or classmates. The mesocycle then is the context in which the person operates. So the family home, the school, or the neighbourhood. The exocycle then is the formal settings or the physical attributes of the setting. So the actual club itself, the pitch, or it could be the church as well, something like that. And then the macrocycle would be the pertaining culture where individuals live. So that would be, is it a rural area? Is it an urban area? Is it a Gaeltacht area? Is it an urban area that has a culture of soccer or rugby, or a rural area that could have a real GAA culture? And in this case, in the club that I studied, it was very much a rural area where the GAA club was the focal point for the people in the community. So the research design, I interviewed 5 people: the chairperson, 2 lady footballers, 2 lady players who were also administrators or coaches in the club as well, an underage coach, and this guy was a new member. So he was from a non-GAA background, He joined the club because his son joined the nursery, and subsequently became a coach and a member of the executive as well. And I also interviewed a senior player who was also a nursery coach at the time too. I also conducted field notes and observations. So looking, kind of getting in amongst the coaches and watching them do their thing on the pitch, and also observe what was going on. Same with the executive as well, sitting in on juvenile meetings and senior executive meetings about how the club is run and things like that. So being part of a club, and in this case the LGFA or GAA club, will increase your social capital. Okay, and what is that? What is social capital and its benefits? Well, it's the glue that helps communities stay together. So it's created by informal groups and community support mechanisms. These mechanisms are found in schools, or in this case the GAA club. Social capital is embedded in the club in the form of the people being the chairperson, the secretary, the treasurer, the coach, or the volunteer. Why social capital? What are the benefits of social capital? Well, you have got enhanced well-being, self-worth, improved health, being part of a team, and social capital, it transcends sport really. The very essence of a GAA club is not really what happens on the pitch, but it's the friendships you make and the social interaction. So our job as coaches or administrators in a club, the running of the club, it's not to develop county players. We're all very proud of those players if it does happen, but our job isn't to develop the next Ashley Maloney or Noel Healy or Carla Rowe. It's to create lifelong participants and lifelong learners. The girl that you coach, they may not go on and play for their county, they may not go on and play adult football, but they may stay involved in the club. It could be your next chairperson, it could be your next treasurer, it could be the next coach, it could be just a supporter of the club. Okay. So the results of the study. So one of the things that stood out straight away was lifelong participation, and particularly the family. The family is the most powerful socializing agent. So if your parents are volunteers, or big brother and sister are volunteers, there's a good chance you would become a volunteer as well. Same, players were drawn back to the area. So on the ladies' team, there were only three girls that were living in the area, and most of the other players were from surrounding areas or the nearby urban environment, and they felt a long-term connection to the club, which I'll speak about in a minute. But it was just very interesting that they just all came back to play for their club where they grew up. In some cases, their children who were living with them obviously in different areas, they brought their kids back to play for the club as well. When I interviewed the chairperson, he spoke of wanting to develop long-term connections. So the young boys and girls that joined the club, that was the club's goal, for them to develop a long-term connection to the club, to build life skills. And like I said, it wasn't just about what happens on the pitch. They wanted those kids to stay in that club for as long as possible. The wider community. So on the pitch is only a small part of the club. That was clear. The club is the centre point of the community, or the focal point, which all the interviewees said. It actually, one of the interviewees said it had taken over from the church as the centre point of the community, which is probably an example of the secularisation of Irish society. The club gave a common bond to everybody. It provided an indirect community connection. So what I mean by this is, so the new member that I interviewed, who didn't come from a GAA background, he spoke of when he was new to the area and he wanted work done in his house. He just asked around for tradespeople that were part of the club, and he was creating connections that way. The club school link was a big part of the club. So the club school liaison officer and the games promotions officer were a big part of that link. The GPO was the face of the club, going and coaching every week, and he became the friendly face down in the club that the kids would see when they come down, especially the ones for the first time. So it had a massive impact on the wider community. Another example is where there was the chairperson at the time, sadly, the executive chairperson passed away, and the whole club organised the funeral. The club played a massive part in it, and that happens up and down the country. But it was just very, interesting and very warm to see the club coming together as one for sad events like that too. But the darker side of things in terms of volunteerism. So many of the interviewees felt that they were undervalued, maybe taken for granted. The fact that they were doing the jobs that others felt, actually, they're doing it anyway. What's the point in me doing it? Okay, and a lot of the workload wasn't spread out. Dropout. So what I mean by that is that the new member who joined because his son had joined the club felt that if his son were to drop out of GAA, out of the club, he felt that he would probably leave the club as well. He didn't see the point in staying, which is sad. But he did say that he'd already made connections as well, so he wouldn't have left the community, if you know what I mean. Coaches and new members feeling marginalised, so maybe more experienced coaches were dominating the session. I mean, doing everything, and the newly qualified coaches or the new members were feeling a little bit marginalised. Time consuming was a big thing with everybody. All of them said they didn't realise the amount of time it was going to take up when they initially started volunteering, that it was affecting their social lives. Those with families felt that it was hard to juggle family life and club life. So implications of the study. So from listening to me, you're probably nodding your head going, yeah, I get all that. But I think the study did confirm a lot of assumptions that we might have on GAA clubs. Family focus. So as I said, the family was definitely the most powerful socializing agent. So what could we learn from this? Maybe we need to be targeting families. It's not just about recruitment of young players. Maybe we need to recruit families. Really focus on the family element, because it was a huge part of the study. The LGFA and the wider community. So it is a big effect on the wider community. It is the focal point of the community. So we shouldn't take that for granted. We should embrace that finding. And shared common experiences. That's what the club does. Shared common experiences, like we're in this together. This is our club, and again, something we shouldn't take for granted and we should embrace. So that's my brief summation of my study. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.